Hi, everyone. Welcome to Our Nation. I'm Brian Kilmeade. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. Tonight, we got a very special show. Take a look. I'm going to take a look back at some of my favorite interviews, hopefully some of your favorite interviews over the past year. For example, we got Dana White here, one of the most successful sports businessmen in the world. You're going to love his story. Dimitri Tebow, Miss Universe. Her life got better after that. She'll explain. Tyler Hubbard, one half of Florida Georgia Line, now a big hit on his own. And Charlemagne the God, the big personality from the Breakfast Club. It's no secret how he became such a success. He'll talk about his story. But first, I want to talk about the state of the economy. Everywhere you go, everyone you talk to, every poll you look at, the economy is the top issue this year, with 38% of voters actually saying the most important issue in picking the next president, which, by the way, I believe the election's in November. So whatever each candidate tries to say about the other, if you want a real clue on who's winning and who will win come election night, getting a handle on the economy, what the real economy is for average everyday Americans, might just be your best bet. And that's exactly what we plan on doing tonight with three of the best economic minds we know. Take a walk with me. We got with us right now Fox Business superstar David Asman. Charlie Gasparino's got a brand new book out, Go Woke or Go Broke. It's fantastic. Show that book cover. And Steve Forbes needs no introduction, but I gave him one because, Steve, you're kind enough to come in today, and everybody knows what your business acumen and where your stand is on taxes. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Happy Labor Day weekend. First off, Steve, to you. What is the state of the economy as you feel it right now?
Walking pneumonia. Not enough to have a formal recession in the eyes of economic theologians, but a lot of people feel they're in a recession because they're falling behind. And one of the things that the CPI and these indexes leave out is the cost of interest, which is killing homeowners, which is killing people who buy
Freezes
cars.
Everything, right?
And once upon a time, interest was considered a cost of living, including these indexes. If you put those numbers in today, people find inflation at 7 or 8%,
right,
not at the 2 or 3 they're talking about now. So people feel they're behind.
Yeah, let's just take a look, and we'll throw this up. The GDP growth, we know about the challenge of the pandemic coming out of it. The Chinese are to blame, but then how do we recover? What do we do? Charlie, when you look at the numbers, keep politics out of it, where is the state of the economy right now?
Well,
as we hear about a rate cut coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tale of two economies. I think if you own financial assets, you're doing very well. NVIDIA, you're doing really well over the last year. But it's a speculative game. But, you know, most Americans are not in the stock market trading. You know, they're average people, they're truck drivers, they're waitresses. They're getting crushed because inflation is one of the most horrible. People talk about middle-class tax cuts and raising taxes on the middle class. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, without being political, did raise taxes on the middle class by stoking inflation. It is a pernicious tax increase on average people. It's regressive because average people make a certain amount of money, but they get taxed at the same rate as rich people who are speculating in the market and keeping ahead of inflation. That's how bad it is. And that's why the American people, listen, I go out to restaurants in New York, oh, the economy's great, you know, packed, you know, spend as much money as what. Average people don't go to those restaurants. They go to diners. And I go to my friend who owns a diner in Manhattan. He's telling me about how he's getting crushed by inflation because guess what? Profit margins at diners are very thin, and he can't make money, and average people can't afford $6 for a bowl of oatmeal. I mean, that's where it comes down.
And we know it peaked in 2022, and now it's they say inflation's around 3%, David Asman, but that's deceptive, correct?
Yeah, well, of course it is, because it still means that people are behind the 8 ball. The wages just didn't keep up with inflation, so they still haven't got their head above water. They're still paying the higher prices. That's why and I'm going to step a little bit into the political arena there because
don't stay out of politics.
Don Lemon, who is no right winger, I think by anybody's definition, so it's clear thing. He did a tour of Pennsylvania about a week ago, and he was on, I believe it was MSNBC, and he had these interviews, these man-on-the-street interviews in black communities, almost to a man, particularly the black men, were saying they were going to vote for Trump, and it shocked the heck out of Don Lemon. I mean, he couldn't believe it, and it also shocked the hell out of the woman who was interviewing him. So
that was Jen Psaki, actually.
Yeah, it was Jen Psaki, who used to work for President Biden. But But the bottom line is that average people and people who you would not expect to be voting for Trump in the upcoming election are doing so, and a lot of that hasn't filtered into the polls. Even Don Lemon questioned a lot of the polls because of the economic issue, because you mention Trump's name and people have a visceral reaction, but then you mention the economy and they say Trump has the answer.
Remember inflation. You mentioned inflation. The rate of inflation has come down. We haven't had declines in prices.
That's right.
And that's what
They say it's up 20% from 3 years ago.
It's just amazing. Okay, so you're still getting, what was the last CPI print?
2.9.
You're still getting 2.9% price increases on top of already high prices.
Right.
I mean, this is like hard to square with average people, because they're saying 2.9%. Well, that's nothing, but it still cost me X amount of more for a state than it did in the past.
But Steve, the one thing that's maddening is when you tell everyone the economy's great. Remember, they spent last summer telling us Bidenomics is working, and people didn't feel that way. You're hitting them over the head with a hammer, and they didn't believe them. They didn't care what the numbers say, what the speech was, which included. They didn't feel it.
Well, that's the key thing. And moreover, psychologically, they don't feel things are going to get better. They don't think, oh, I'm going to get a better job. My wages are really going to go up. I'm going to have a better life and things like that. All they were worried about, gee, costs go up. I have to pay more on the health care side. Colleges, tuitions are going down, up, not down. And so you have a situation where people feel they're on the treadmill, and the treadmill is winning.
Right.
So Charlie's right. You have some people doing very well, but a lot of people feel they're falling behind.
In a few minutes, we're going to go over what we know about both Kamala Harris's tax plan and the economy, the economic goals of the president, what we know about what they're going to do. But I want to talk about Trump's tax reform, because all I keep hearing is Trump and his billionaire friends, this is a tax cut for the rich. David, why don't you tell me, now that we have 3.5, or it passed in 2018, right, what do we know about the tax reform that Trump put out?
Well, first of all,
and the impact
it wasn't just for the rich. The New York Times, which again is not a conservative rag by any stretch, it admitted in a front page piece that they had a few years back in 2019, I think it was, that 65% of taxpayers received a tax cut as a part of the plan. The top 1% went from paying 40% of income tax to 45%. And then the amount of revenue that came in, President Biden was always talking about how it costs $2 trillion. It didn't cost, it added a 48% increase. There was a 48% increase in tax revenue. That is the money that the government was receiving from taxpayers. So they were getting more money. It not only paid for itself, but it had 48% more than it was getting in 2017 before the tax cut.
And Charlie, before you weigh in, I just want people at home to hear what people are saying about what Trump tried to do. Just because he's rich, it doesn't necessarily mean he benefited the rich. Listen.
He doesn't actually fight for the middle class. Instead, he fights for himself and his billionaire friends.
He wants the middle class to pay the price for another huge tax cut that would mostly help him and his rich friends.
At a time of massive income and wealth inequality, giving more tax breaks to billionaires is radical.
We should not be rubber stamping Trump tax cuts for giant businesses.
Is that what it was, Charlie?
No, I mean, we should point out that, I mean,
Would I scare you with those?
Well, I was going to say, were we supposed to believe Bernie Sanders on issues like this? But I'm not trying to be political here. He's a socialist, so that's
and he claims it.
And he admits to it. Let's point out that Trump did raise taxes on the rich. Here's how he did it. He closed the state deduction, or he lowered the amount of money that you can deduct from your state and local taxes, from your federal income tax. That crushed New York millionaires.
And
I know a lot of them.
California.
In California, I got really mad. And by the way, Democrats are trying to put that in, i.e.
SALT.
SALT, the state and local tax deduction. They're trying to put that in, give the rich people a tax cut ever since. Now, it's not working for a lot of reasons. It's hard to put the genie back in the bottle, but you get what I'm saying. And the other thing I would say about this whole thing about millionaires and billionaires, and, I mean, no offense. My old man was a bartender part-time, okay? He liked millionaires and billionaires. Give them a tax cut.
Should be a goal.
And they're gonna give him a bigger tip. I mean, that's what average people, that's how they make money. They work for millionaires and billionaires.
And then
work.
And then your hope is to be that owner and buy another.
Put your kids through college to be that owner.
Lincoln called improving your lot in life. You can become a millionaire. Some can become billionaires. But the thing is, you don't envy your neighbor. What you want to know is my condition getting better? Then you feel good about life. And most people today don't feel they're getting ahead.
Right. I got to ask you, Steve, just to define for the average person, when you cut the corporate tax rate from 35% as a country to 21%, it wasn't to make corporations richer. What was the goal? What did it do when Trump did that?
Well, first of all, it had companies come back from overseas. Also, companies that park tens of billions of dollars overseas because of the high tax rate here. So when they lowered the tax rate, that brought companies home, that brought money home. Moreover, it meant there was more money to invest, which is why the economy did well under Trump before COVID hit, why wages were going up rather than down. Lower income people were having a better rise than ever before. And so the thing about companies, they're tax collectors. They don't have the money. Where do they get the money from? They get it from you, the customer. They take it out of your wages if they have to pay more taxes.
No, you gouge. You're a mean people. Let's talk about what both candidates, Harris and Trump, want to do. This is what we know about their tax plan. For example, Donald Trump says, I want to cut that corporate rate even more. I'm going to put 20% tariffs across the board. No taxes on Social Security, no taxes on tips. I'm going to stop the auto mandates, and it's all going to be about energy. He's going to be pushing energy big time. Energy production will fuel the big recovery that he wants to do, and he's going to take over the Fed perhaps and make them bring down tax rates. For Harris, for interest rates, I should say, 45% capital gains tax she's talking about. She's talking about a new homeowner subsidy of $25,000 each for first-time buyers, tax unrealized on capital gains, which I mentioned, and the raise the corporate tax rate up to 28%. That'll put them 7 points above China. They also vilified companies going to crack down on gouging. David, tell me about the two plans.
Well, Harris's plan, as Steve was saying when he mentioned the envy factor in all this, it's based on the old Democratic lie that in fact the envy is what drives capitalism. And yes, envy can be a part of it, but really what's happening when you base an economic plan on envy rather than on prosperity, rather than on the idea of giving people opportunity. She calls her plan Opportunity Society, which was stolen, by the way, from Jack Kemp in the old days. There's nothing opportunistic unless you're a government bureaucrat, because she wants to give a lot more power to government bureaucrats than they have now. The tax increase is a 33% increase in the corporate tax. As Steve was saying, it's just going to be passed on to consumers. So that will actually raise inflation even more than it already is. But this idea of going after the wealthy, the idea of a wealth tax, which has been tried in many other countries, 90% of the ones that have tried it have failed.
We're going to go to a country without a wealth tax.
Yeah, it was crazy. So it's anything based on envy is going to fail.
Charlie, I also say they want to put, I think, millions of dollars, $200 million they want to build 2 million new homes, too.
Yeah. There was a bigger gap between the rich and the poor during Obama. There's a huge gap now. Okay, that gap, let's be real clear, when the millionaires and billionaires were getting those breaks under Trump, narrowed. All the numbers say. And one other thing I want to say, we can't give Trump a total pass on this. I know, Steve, you've got to be.
Go ahead.
Tariffs.
Do you not like the tariffs, Steve Forbes? Do you like that? Do you want the tariffs? Because you're trying to bring manufacturing back.
Yeah, tariff is another word for tax, and tax is not part of my vocabulary, that word. And so there are other ways to bring manufacturing back, like lowering the regulations, like lowering tax rates on profits.
You have eliminated yourself as Treasury Secretary in the next administration should he win. How dare you?
Well, it's a pay cut anyway.
Absolutely, for all of you. Guys, thanks so much. It's going to be an exciting 3 months, and I think the best economy, the people with the best projections on the economy will win. So thanks so much for the insight. And congratulations on your book, Charlie.
You going to buy one?
Go woke, go broke.
Did you buy one?
No, you gave one to me. 20% off.
So cheap.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.